Welcome to the Ultimate Property Management Virtual Masterclass Part 2, brought to you by Real Estate Investor. Today's masterclass is officially sponsored by We Connect You, developers of intelligent property management software to enable you to scale and deliver more value to your clients. We are focusing on body corporates and homeowner association managers. So we know that property management is an important factor in owning and investing in property today. Trustees, directors, owners, and landlords are demanding greater value from property professionals. They require more transparent and relevant reporting, tech-enabled workflows, and online portals for increased convenience.
I'll start off by just speaking a little bit about just introducing what I believe a property management ecosystem is. And that to me is a collection of 3 points. The first one being a collection of software that complements or supplements each other to enable you to be more efficient. It's importantly also to have a set of operating procedures to ensure that the technology is used properly. And of course, you have to have good people. If you don't have good people, then there's no point of having systems or procedures in place. And those 3 things together gives you that extreme competitive advantage. The best way I could think of maybe discussing this topic today, just to engage a bit in our journey. Some 16 years ago, we began our company, and we started off with our first accounting system, which was a locally based system, in other words, on a server or on a laptop or computer. It was a fantastic, world-renowned accounting system, but we had some struggles, and those struggles mainly were to do with 3 particular topics. First of all, being a small business, just the 2 owners at that particular time, we found it difficult when we wanted to go away, or if we were at a trustee meeting and we wanted to access information, or we wanted to do a little bit of work. It was quite hard to actually get that done because you had to figure out how to get your access to the information on the system, and you had to, pretty much be in your office. So we found that very difficult at that point. We also had to do a lot of manual accounting or financial reporting. We believed that we needed to report properly for financials, and thus we had to export into Excel, imagine that for every single client, and was, as I'm sure you can imagine, extremely time consuming. Then, of course, being a normal accounting system and not an industry-related software, it was very difficult to repeat the mundane sort of billing and things that we do. Your levy runs and all that kind of stuff was quite difficult when you had to implement increases and change your repeating billing and import various other charges and all sorts of things like that. So it was quite difficult to do that. Try and resolve some of those struggles, and we options, in our opinion, or at least that we could find, of good online systems. So eventually we did find one, and as mentioned before, there were various things that we needed to do, or reasons why we wanted to change. We needed more industry-specific accounting functionality. We needed the online access, and importantly, also, we needed permissions. We started staff. We didn't want them to have access to be able to change certain things, or we wanted them to just do what they needed to do, and we found that quite difficult to implement. So we needed something that had a bit more functionality from a user permissions and profile management perspective. I mentioned already our financial reporting. I mean, we're very proud of our financial reporting, but it was such a manual process. It used to take literally a week to put together. And eventually we found the system that could actually click a button with a bit of development that we did with them, and then we were able to actually then produce this financial reporting for our clients in an automated fashion. We also found our provider to be relatively open to developing functionality in the system, which was also very important to us too, because, things change, you find better ways of doing things, and you need your provider to actually be willing to accommodate that. The struggles we faced with that particular system, well, although it had amazing accounting functionality, it's kind of like Pringles. When you pop, you can't stop, So we eventually, we found that, yes, our accounting system is amazing. We have our online features, but now we need more on our actual management side of the business, for the clients, the jobs, tasks, that kind of stuff. We needed to be able to log it. It was becoming difficult to manage. Our staff having to have day books and keep track of what they need to do and all that kind of stuff. So it was something that we thought we needed. We then also thought we might be more beneficial to have more user functionality from a client perspective. So for them to be able to log in and grab their levy statement or anything like that, and get access to rules or something like, just to get rid of some of those emails that, we often get in that regard. So those were the sort of struggles that we had, and sort of improvements that we really wanted to get into the future. It was soon after that that we were lucky enough to invite colleagues to Australia to attend a seminar. That was 6 years ago. We went to Australia to attend the seminar, and we were also fortunate enough to organize some appointments with a number of different companies in Melbourne and Sydney. And we went to visit those companies. We went to the seminar. And what we found in Australia was just that, it was kind of like South Africa, just in the future a little bit. They had banks there that were almost begging for business. One bank in particular, I'll never forget, Macquarie, they actually had purchased a managing agent software. And they were offering that software for free if you took up banking services for your clients from a particular bank. They also had a wide selection of management software. And that was obviously not something that we were used to or accustomed to, because of, like I previously said, we were searching quite a lot. And I kind of felt in South Africa at that time, it was more like a rental management software that was adapted to become a property management software. So you kind of got what you needed, but there were a lot of things in there that were related to landlords and tenants and things like that. And just to see the sheer volume of options available from a software perspective was just amazing from that perspective. And then visiting those companies, we found that we learned a lot about the service differences. Not that it's extremely different to what we were already offering, but they all spoke about communicating their value better by reporting that wasn't just about financial. Even the way that they were set up with portfolio managers and assistants, and different kinds of ways that they actually service their clients, and we got a lot of value from that. And so when we were coming back into South Africa, we had a chat, and we thought, find something that's got more administrational functionality and other things that we were looking for. And eventually we did find a software, and some of the things that we really loved about it was the unbelievable administrational functionality, the bank integration. It was already integrated directly into of banking institutions, and it had a lot of bulk functionality, as Donnie mentioned earlier, being able to click a button, run all your levies for all of your schemes and things like that at once, was something that we obviously had never experienced. Struggles that we had with it, though, it was a very, very difficult take-on process. Most importantly, it was a single entry accounting system. So those of you that are not familiar with accounting is, as a standard, should be double entry. For every one transaction, there should be an opposite transaction. to close that off. And later, after taking on the system, that's actually what it was about. We also found it relatively difficult to get development done, because they were a big organization. Our single little small business needs wasn't exactly top of mind for them. So we found it very difficult to actually, change what we needed. And then, of course, it was extremely costly. Obviously, having journey, there were lessons learned. And I think the most important thing is that you should never assume. Having done all this homework before about property management online systems, we assumed that this particular system would have an amazing accounting platform like anybody else would have. And so once we took over, we realized that it didn't, and we actually had to almost double our accounting staff complements to account for those extra transactions we had to do because it was a single entry accounting system. So that was a very costly exercise for us. We then, shortly after that move, we realized the benefits of being online, and we decided to take our whole business as much as possible onto the online platform. So what do I mean by that? Well, we had a property management system online already, but internally, as I'm sure you all experience, you have a lot of things that you need to save. You've got to save your documents, you've got to save your client stuff, you've got to do all those things. And at that particular time, we had a server in our office. It was extremely costly to maintain. The upkeep was becoming ridiculous. Every time, being a growing company, every time we had to hire staff, we had to add more licenses, and it was just quite a costly exercise. And we wanted to make remote work easier. So you might say, well, you had your property management system, but if you're not in the office, how do you get to your data? We had to VPN in, and if you didn't have a good signal connection, you'd really struggle. So that was another main criteria as to why we decided to make that move. Of course, then, having staff on the road, and sorts of things like for them. And we were finding that they were being a little bit lazy and not saving their data onto the server like they were supposed to. A lot of it was ending up on their desktop. And then when a laptop got stolen or a hard drive failed or something like that, then we were losing data. So it was another reason why we wanted to get onto the cloud. And then I think the biggest pain for me personally was having to back up our data on our server. People don't often think that, you got a server. It's got RAID technology or whatever to say to cover from when your hard drive fails or something like that. But you also have to have proper backups. So every day we're sitting there plugging in a USB external hard drive and backing up the data, and then one day you forget, and then you have a problem and you lose data, and it's just a bit of a nightmare. There are risks though. Security mainly. I think we've all experienced that in the last year with a lot of people working from home, and so you have to bear that in mind. You have to have correct software and things that accommodate that and provides extra security and safety for your users. And then obviously it's online, so you need to have connectivity. I think nowadays it's not so much of a problem with fiber and good cellular activity in most parts of the country. But in those days it was a bit of a problem. As soon as you didn't have good connectivity, that was that. You couldn't do anything. So that's obviously a factor that you need to consider. 3 years ago, because we had such a good time in Australia, we decided that a collection of us was going to go to the USA now. And we were going to do, we found that armor there that's about 45 years old now. And they have an annual seminar. And that particular year was in Washington, D.C. So we got on our bicycles and we went over to the USLA. And we visited this seminar, and we managed to get some appointments with a bunch of companies, and we did a little bit of a road trip. And thought Australia was amazing. USA was like next level. This is where we actually found Zoom. They were majorly into Zoom already 3 years ago. All their meetings, maybe because of the sheer size of the USA, when they're having meetings with colleagues or people, they were doing it via Zoom. And so, that naturally meant that people were accustomed to virtual meetings. So they had a lot more online meetings for trustees, directors, and AGMs. So that was something extremely new to us. We also saw that they were a lot more advanced in training. With their 40 odd years at that particular time of experience, they were just so proud, and we had never seen that. I mean, they would celebrate people at lunch, calling them onto the stage for those who had certified themselves in their highest qualification, and asking all of those who have that qualification to stand up, and everyone would clap. And I couldn't see myself in South Africa sitting at a lunch and people applauding others for being portfolio managers or for acquiring the training to become a proper portfolio manager. So we just extremely interested and thought that's something that we need to bring back to South Africa, and actually and get that pride and professionalism into what we do. And then, of course, the software. I mean, if we thought Australia had software, or, granted it was 2 years later, they have exhibition hall on the first day, and then obviously at lunch or tea, they have it done in the exhibition hall. And it was literally 2 halls, I'd say bigger than a rugby field, full of exhibitors. Every second exhibitor was a software provider of some kind. Be it a voting app, or be it a property management software. There was even one who got invited to their offices in New York, and that was a little box that inside of apartment buildings. And if you're at work and had somebody who needed to walk your dog, or if you had a cleaner coming over, they would actually be able to put in a code on the app, and then the person would punch the code in when they get to that device, and the drawer would open, and you'd see a whole bunch of keys, and only one set of key would actually come out of the locked platform, and that would be the key for your apartment, and the person would go collect your dog, go for a walk or whatever, and then put the key back in the thing and lock it again, and be done. And it was just amazing what we saw at banks, at the exhibitions with software too, integrations. And that was the major thing I think we saw was the integrations, how nobody was really a master of all trades. They were just a master of a specialized thing with just a lot of other options to integrate in to do whatever needed to be done to professionalize your service delivery. So in the flight on the way, I'll actually never forget, because I actually felt like throwing up a little bit. Andre said to me, no, we have to change softwares. And just thinking back to how difficult that whole process was to get all of our clients onto the new software and everything, I wasn't thrilled about the idea. But having experienced what we had experienced, we knew that was the move that we had to make. So fortuitously, when I arrived back to the office, my operations manager had bumped into somebody at an ARMA conference and had called them in to present. And I decided to join that meeting. And they presented their software. And some of the things that we really liked about this particular software was the transparency and simplicity of it. So, I mean, some people might think simplicity is a negative word to describe something. I think is good. In a system that was so difficult to use and so complex, seeing something so simple and easy to use was really a breath of fresh air. And the transparency obviously was something that we always wanted to give to our clients. We wanted them to see everything, we had nothing to hide. We wanted them to really be able to delve as deep as they wanted to. This particular system had an amazing administrational functionality with a solid accounting base. We weren't going to make that mistake again. They're flexible and adaptable to develop needs. So, I mean, we even discussed with them before moving on all the things that we needed. They gave us a list of development times. And from the start, I think we just had a great relationship from that aspect. Then what was also beneficial was the provider had industry practical experience. They understood our needs. So, you know, it was being able to talk apples for apples. And then obviously the same tech and industry vision alignment is important. We had many discussions about the future of where this is going to go, where the system was going to go, what our future needs might be. And we were on the same page. So we just thought that from the start, like I said earlier, we shared the same visions. And I think that's important when you're choosing a provider. The struggles that we've had.
Your 1 minute wrap, Marcus, sorry to interrupt you. I know we're going a little bit over time here. So can you maybe give us a minute or 2 minute wrap?
Okay. So staff adoption was a problem. You know, you have got to try to get them to use all the functionalities, the transparency. Our clients are now able to every tiny little transaction and question what you're doing. So there's more questions sometimes, so you have to try to do it a bit. And then internal management reporting, you know, non-client related, to manage our own internal processes. We really need to look at that. Some of the burdens is that I think the main one here really is like social media and WhatsApp groups. I mean, we have to try collectively put it together and decide how we want to move forward. And if we all stick to the same philosophies and ideas about that, I think it will be easier to make sure that that's how it stays in the industry. The importance of technology, I think we've mentioned quite a few of them already. You know, we've got to become scalable and manageable. Donnie already mentioned those points earlier. I think, you know, this is now a software-driven world, so you're going to have to get on the bus. You can't add technology in later. You've got to make it a strategic plan as part of your business growth, and you've got to build your business with the technology. The how, just as a final point, you have to do your homework. You know, you've got to find the right providers. You've got to find them that do the right services for the majority of your needs. You've got to implement and maintain SOPs. You've got to find the right people. You really have to develop a culture of training. I mean, if anything we learned from our trips overseas is that people are well trained and good at what they do. And then you need to find tools to help you manage your processes and people so that you can keep your finger on the pulse. And then lastly, communication to your clients. I mean, that's most important of all, and not just to your clients, but to your people internally too, between departments, between managers, all kinds of things. It's extremely important. So thanks very much, Neil. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Marco. And I think, you know, one of the things I did take out from your talk was how the Americans celebrate entrepreneurship. And I think that is something that we can bring into as a culture in South African business. And not only in property, but whatever business it is, they just celebrate entrepreneurship. And I think you demonstrated that point so nicely and from that visit. And I think if there's one golden nugget that people can take away, it's certainly that. So thank you very much, Marco. It's much appreciated.